I need to see something a lot more easy to, like, Kai'Sa's a great champ, and I think Kai'Sa has a lot going for her, and Baiye, I think, is a good Kai'Sa player. I want to see the Lucian. I want to see Lucian Braum. I want to see something that just wins 2v2, that can just push forward in the game. We saw them with early tempo, but we didn't really actually get to see them win. And, now we see Ultra Prime back on the blue side and still investing into champions that can skirmish and fight early. They want to get that gold lead, and Junhao very much going to be the option here. I believe Trundle is the only different ban here out of the first phase. Varus being banned on blue side is never, ideal for Ultra Prime, but might be because they want to invest in a lot of these big fights.
Yeah, well, you know what? You don't need to have great macro play this season, right? Compared to Pantheon, where, we saw a lot of the pitfalls here. We're going to see an insta lock of Skarner here on R1. Are we returning to the days of Skarner being the most broken champion in the LPL? Because those were dark days, my friend.
They were dark indeed, but luckily for us, it just seems to be Xiaofang who wants to prioritize this champion very highly. This is not the first time that they have R1'd Skarner throughout this split already, so makes sense there. They want to pair it with something that can be proactive. The Aurora makes a lot of sense. I like that duo. Again, LPL Aurora has been more successful than any other region throughout this year in terms of how that champion has performed, but if you want to pair something up with the Junhao, Ryze, of course, being one of Saber's most played picks, I would expect that over something like a Victor. That might be a little bit more also up Saber's champion pool. But unfortunately, Yanni, you asked for the assassins, you asked for the big carries for Saber. You're going to get the mage instead.
Yeah, we're going to get his top 2 played on the year. And you know what? There's not really that much wrong with it, but it's just, I got to see it, man. Especially because, you're in such a weird spot right now as a team. I mean, You're currently 1-4. What you're doing is not working. LNG is as crushed you in this first game. Let's be honest. This game was only close because of that Otacon play. I mean, you are in danger of your season potentially going up in smoke. And any hopes you have of getting out of the bottom, if you can't beat LNG, guess what that means? It means you're the bottom team. And if you're the bottom team, you're the one that's getting farmed.
Yeah, and no one wants to be the team that's getting farmed in Group Nirvana. Don't ask RNG and OMG how that's going right now. So, it's you don't want to be that team. Not well at all. So, we'll see how that ends up going. Renekton is going to be the lock-in. Zika just had an incredible Renekton performance. I'm not going to try and call things out, but LNG picked up their first win of the split in the previous series, and Zika popped off on Rumble and Renekton in those 2 games, so... Certainly something to think about.
What does Zika play in the first game?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was Rumble.
Oh man, he was cooking them, and now he's going to be cutting them up. Bro, he's just doing his summer barbecue arc. He cooks them, and then he cuts them up. He serves them to the people. He serves dubs to the people of LNG. Let's see if that continues. A flurry of 80 carries banned in the second half here. Lucian, Ezreal biting the dust. So is Yunar, man. I hate seeing Lucian banned. It's my favorite champion. I love casting Lucian, man.
And unfortunately, these teams like playing Lucian, so
he's just so damn strong.
Staying on the ban list. Yes.
If you're on the balance team and you heard that, no, you did not. Continue.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear anything. I don't know what you're talking about, but now we've got some priority support picks. Usually when you see a lot of the big ones taken off in Game 1 and Alistar still available, you see that prioritized pretty heavily. That, Nautilus, Leona, all still available if they just want to go for these more, regular tanky engagers. And again, for OBO, it's a player or a champion that he can just be aggressive on, that he doesn't have to worry too much about, like, is this the right or wrong time? If they go, they can go. They have Skarner ult to follow it up. Renekton could potentially be diving the mid line here, and there's going to be a lot of problems, but Ultra Prime, they saw a little bit of the hyper carry action in game number 1 with the Kai'Sa. See if they want to repeat that. It's the Braum, actually, is the lock-in here.
Yeah, a solid Braum pick here. Really like it. Get to slow up this Alistar, this Renekton, this Skarner, and make it really easy on your triple melees that you have over on your top side. I do wonder what kind of 80 carry you'll follow it up with. A lot of the really safe, self-sufficient options are gone. But I feel like Sivir would fit very well into this composition. Anytime that you can speed up your melee champions and allow yourself to be left alone in a lane is totally fine.
This is the obvious choice for me. I don't really think you could go in a lot of other directions. You want that safe AD carry that can still be useful in the late game. Sivir fills that bill, and Baiye has a lot of success on Silver. Sivir, at the very least, has played a lot of Sivir maybe not the success, but has very much at least, piloted the champ. But it's going to be a hyper carry as an answer here with the Jinx on the other side. We've seen what Fish 1 can do on the Jinx. Yanni, this is looking awfully familiar to a Game 2 that I might have watched the previous night.
Yeah, bro, this is looking a lot like a Game 2 that I literally watched before we hopped on because, listen, I had a busy day of work and everything like that. It's tough out here sometimes, but yeah, this LNG composition just seems like exactly what they would want, right? You have your late game insurance policy, you've got a strong early game Renekton, you've got Engage out of your jungle and support, you've got a nice mid-game champion in this Aurora with a lot of zone control. I mean, this is absolutely fantastic, right?
Yeah, I think it is a lot. It makes a lot of sense for LNG just to feel comfortable going into this game. I will say for Ultra Prime, I think they have more opportunities in this game to push advantages. While the last game they really relied on their solo laners being able to win early and actually, develop that pressure so the Pantheon can play more aggressive. I think you have more ways to play through bot lane. And with the Ryze ult still coming in, you still have that macro presence. If the Junhao can get ahead, you can still get that gold lead. There are a lot of parts of this game where it's like, okay, if they're fighting from neutral, is it not just, Junhao and Bessa diving in with Saber on the backline? Like, that's going to be something that I think you're looking at for Ultra Prime, but you're right. The comfort for LNG hopefully can, shine through for them, and we'll see if, game number 1 can be a bit of a fluke for Ultra Prime in terms of their macro.
Maybe, Kman, maybe. Interesting thing to note about Ultra Prime is that they kind of have it all except for, like, actually getting into some of these fights. Their engage is a little wishy-washy sometimes. They've got good counter engage. You can kind of get in with Ambessa sometimes, but they've got a lot of scaling on their side coming through with the Ryze, with the Sivir, and a lot of early game power themselves. It's just a matter of their early game strength can bust through the tankiness that you're going to see out of Xiaofang and OVO in some of these fights.
That is the question, whether or not they can break the tanks. I think you're going to have to do it early and often, and you're going to have to be able to make it count. And OVO is going to be a big piece of that.
Well, he's now 3-0. You saw last game he was 2-0. He won, and you know what that means? He's 3-0. And it's always God's plan. As Ultra Prime look to move in, they will just get a ward down. And, just know where Xiaofang wants to start, right? And, helping out with early jungle tracking, always strong, especially because Skarner is one of these champions that can really cut on mobility, right? And can take these really creative angles and surprise you and pick up a lot of early kills if you're not careful.
Yeah, you don't want to make mistakes here if you're Ultra Prime. Unfortunately, they've made quite a few of them over the course of this split. But if you can play calm and controlled and, make sure you play to your power spikes, I think you're going to be just fine as this game
Yeah, bro, I was
moves
screwing Nirvana.
forward.
I'm sorry.
Oh. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
OVO really looking good. And we're seeing that in the bot lane 2v2. Don't forget how this 2v2 went in game number 1 early on, with XiaoXia actually making quite a few mistakes on the rel, getting the flash forced early by playing overly aggressive. They do still have push in this lane. Like, this is always going to be in favor of Braum and his combat power at level 1. Certainly something worth noting. Not that Jinx or Alistar can really do anything about that. But we'll see if those mistakes still end up coming in.
All right, this is very interesting positioning out of Fish 1 here. So you elected to fade up to the river. You don't lose anything for it, but it's a choice to make. But yeah, again, this is something that we totally expected, right? Just because we know that Sivir is going to shove you in very easily and get in a little bit of chip damage here and there too. So, in the end, right, we're not going to see too much in the way of the 2v2, I don't think. I think we'll start seeing, the roams really be a big factor for guys like OVO and XiaoXia this game.
Yeah, I think for the Alistar in particular, it's important to get out on the map and make sure that things aren't, going poorly for your mid laner. We'll see how that ends up playing out. A little bit of a decent trade on the top side. Both of these players are very familiar with their champion. Zika, I can pull up the stat here. He has to have Renekton as one of, if not his most played champion of all time. This is really kind of the signature Zika pick that you think of, going back to his, Worlds LNG days from many, many moons ago. So, that and the Jax, I think, is kind of what I think of him for. So we'll see if he can continue to pilot it, be a big threat in the early game, and be a team fight threat, because this might be the only winning lane, at least early on, for LNG to be able to push through.
Yeah, I want to know what happened up here, because he's got a massive lead right now. He's got, 9 CS lead, and even if Zhang gets these 3, it's still a 6 CS lead. That's kind of crazy. Xiaofang has spotted out Junhao here. don't expect too much in the way of dueling power, although Skarner, well, listen, when your health bars aren't that high, he does have plenty of damage as he will force the Ultra Prime jungler away.
Yeah, it's going to delay Junhao at least a little bit, but with him being able to get the crab, it's not really all that consequential. He'll just head to the bot side and make sure to trade this off. I like the idea from Xiaofang looking on the top side because of this Renekton and then, you know, making sure to kind of at least disrupt what the Xin Zhao is doing. But you're absolutely right. The top lane advantage was noteworthy. I think it's also worth noting that Fish 1, despite being pushed in and, you know, really, you know, not having lane prio in this 2v2 is equal, if not up in CS throughout this entire process. So that's what you want to see from the Jinx. You want to see her continue to stay online. See if that continues to happen. They are sending the Jinx back into the bot lane, so no 4.5-minute swap coming in for LNG, at least right now.
Yeah, and honestly, why would you, right? It seems like Zeka is having a really good time up here against Zhang. Just getting the better of him when it comes to CS. Zhang opting into a cloth armor to try to mitigate some of this damage that Zika is dealing against the double longsword. It does make it a little tough, but he seems to be sustaining quite okay.
Yes, the Renekton's not going to have too much trouble here. Mbessa, especially going down early, is going to be in a really rough spot. We'll see if Zhang can actually stabilize. I think it's worth calling out that we haven't exactly seen the most consistent late games from Zhang. He really is a lane-focused player, and so he's going to go down early, especially on a champ like Mbessa. We'll have to see how that ends up impacting the game, but no early dragon, at least not right now, in the same way that we got in the previous game. Just going to be some trades and, you know, some general patterns back and forth, but it is Cloud first dragon, so that's something worth noting. Maybe a little bit less prioritized than the Mountain the previous game. Grub's still spawning in 2.5 minutes, though, so we'll likely see some pressure on the top side soon.
Yeah, Junhao is going to clear out the Scrump, and he might show up top, but given the fact that there's a ward down, I can't imagine he'll be able to make any hay, especially because Xiaofang is fading up there too. We do see Saber moving up, so there is potential for a multi-man play here, as they are certainly looking for it. The Realm Warp is going to get popped. Good flash from Zeka. So he's just trying to get away. Meanwhile, over on the bottom side, we're going to see a 2v2 break out here as OVO in a little bit of trouble. The heal used by Baiye as Fish 1 trying to get up in his mitt, in his face, but what is he doing? He got tagged by the Braum, and he's just dead. Meanwhile, Junhao on the other side here is going to die to a roam of Haichao and Xiaofang. It's a 1-for-1 when the dust settles.
Oh, Yanni, we are back. We are so back to making mistakes. It is everywhere on the map. It is so consistent. Fish 1 with one of the most aggressive flashes I have seen in quite a long time, tagged by the Braum and choosing to go in. Very interesting play. OVO obviously not being a part of that. Junhao having to flash.
Yeah, here comes the teleport coming through from the Braum as well, and Haichao is going to get rooted up here. He's going to trade a little bit back on the Saber, but he's really running out of mana, and he's starting to run out of space here because Xiaofang can't help him out. The chase down is here. He'll try to slow up Saber.
Saber slowed.
Will be able to hop away. XiaoXia could not catch up in time, so good job there by the LNG jungler to make sure his mid laner gets out alive.
I mean, it's a good job by LNG to be able to retreat, but once again, it's a lot going on. We're going to have to see what ended up happening here. Just Junhao looking for an exchange. You know, he felt like he would be able to pick up the kill, just wasn't quite capable of doing that, having the flash out, not burning the flash onto the Skarner. Also very, very noteworthy.
Oh, I don't want to see this again, bro.
This bot lane 2v2. It's a nice knock-up into trap combo coming in from the Alistar and the Jinx, but OVO gets very low, and at this point, he's quite afraid. He ends up getting the stun off, but the miscommunication coming in, it's clear that Fish 1 wants to try to commit for the kill. OVO is already completely backed out. If you don't have both of them committing to that play, it's just not going to happen, so ends up being a bit of a problem for LNG, and that's not what you want to see for two players that have played together in the LDL already. Yeah,
that is a very worrying sign. We'll see if LNG's bot lane are able to right the ship a little bit. This could be the moment where Baiye on the Sivir really starts to impose their will, given the fact that they got a BF sword. They're up in CS now, and you're getting zoned off pretty hard. It's going to be really hard.
It's going to be tough indeed. Certainly not an easy game state, but
the creative pathing. Okay, he couldn't quite get him up on the wall as Saber is looking to try and dance around here. He'll move over to Junhao. We're going to turn this one around. The Impale is there. Onto him when it becomes lightning going to land too. There's just a lot of auto attacks onto the Scar. Looking to actually take him out, but guess what? You can't. Oh, wait, hold on. XiaoXia, he flew in. OVO gets there, and he knocks away Saber into the Super Mega Death Rocket. What the heck? This is awesome. Now, the problem is OVO is probably dead, but he made a really sick play there.
That was huge from LNG. That play looked very, very doomed from LNG, but it's a really nice roam from OVO. It's perfectly timed. He gets there just in time to salvage Xiaofang and Haichao's health bars, and what a rocket from Fish1 picking up the kill there. Those are kills on two really big priority targets, the Aurora and the Jinx for LNG, but worth noting, that is now 2 kills for Baiye on the Saber. As we get a replay here, you correctly called it, Yanni. No stun off of this charge in from Xiaofang makes this play a lot more difficult. Saber actually is just kind of able to dance on them and survive for a little bit longer than maybe you would want. Once Junhao is in, and once this Impale goes wide onto the Rise, this is a very difficult play for the Skarner. XiaoXia is here, but with OVO following in quick succession and not being able to take down the Skarner, all of a sudden things get very, very dangerous. It's a great flash from OVO. Junhao getting bursted down by the damage from Aurora and from Skarner, and that super mega death rocket blowing up the backline. Overall is a good play for LNG, and they're going to benefit by getting grubs out of it, but Zhang now ulting Haichao.
Yeah, Haichao was able to escape with his life down to about half HP, but yeah, man, that's just an incredible headbutt, Kman, because that rocket was already in transit. He saw that rocket and said, that one's not going to land. Hang on, I can fix that. And yeah, just that's an assist that it shows up on the stat sheet, and you're like, he should have gotten at least 2 assists for that. But yeah, you know, really turning around the play, because that, as you said, did look very doomed. And now Grub's in the back pocket of LNG here for their strong side laners. You know, you get to take it away from Ultra Prime strong side laners too. Overall, very, very good for LNG.
I completely agree. I actually could not agree more. LNG in a pretty good game state here, all things considered, especially with where the gold is going. We talked about Fish1 and OVO maybe not having the best synergy in that 2v2, you know, making up for it very much so in the mid game here. But as we crest over to the 10-minute mark, Dragon's still on the map here. Cloud's still available. No team has, you know, taken that first Dragon. This will be, you know, not really a sole prioritized game. Xiaofang, though, looking for Saber once again.
Okay, Xiaofang couldn't quite get in there, and he waits on the Impale. That means that Saber was able to flash out. This is the poor execution of certain plays that we've seen out of LNG for most of Split 3.
I think, unfortunately, every part of that play was bad for LNG and for Xiaofang, who ends up going over the wall, not even getting, you know, the slam into the Rise. And he does force the flash, which is really ideal, but I'm not even sure that would have hit him without the flash. It was just kind of a pretty bad setup there in terms of the range and the spacing from Xiaofang. But at the end of the day, you got the Summoner, and that's what matters. So you can't worry too much. But gold is basically even here. You know, if you're going to hang your hat on something for Ultra Prime, gold is on a pretty big priority target for you. Sivir is up about 700 gold over this Jinx. That's a good spot for her to be in, and she's only going to get scarier as the game continues to go along. If she can get through this front line, as we talked about in the early game, still could be looking pretty solid for Ultra Prime. But again, with no objectives really being heavily prioritized, Dragon, of course, going over to Ultra Prime here. We'll have to see if this game ends up getting delayed or if it just kind of breaks down more into fights.
Yeah, and if it gets delayed, you know, advantage Ultra Prime, because we did talk about how they scale a little bit better than LNG, right? Obviously, we know that late game Jinx is an absolute menace, but hey, Sivir does a fair amount too, and we know what Rise can do. And, you know, we can even see what Mbessa can do here. It's not in the late game, but all the same, doing great work onto Haichao, unable to actually finish him off, but we'll shove him out.
Yeah, this is the advantage of having something like Mbessa on your team. It doesn't matter that Mbessa struggled against the Renekton early. She can really punish a lot of these mages in these side lanes if you are going to send them against Mbessa, like Aurora. So the teleport necessary from Zika to be able to catch this wave and to continue the push on the bot side. It's just more resources being burned for LNG, which is never ideal. But again, kind of a stalemate coming in terms of just how much this ends up swinging one way or the other. Dragon spawning in over 3 minutes, Herald spawning in 2. Right now, it looks like it's just going to be a bit of a delayed game state unless someone wants to get really, really aggressive here.
Well, Baiye is the one who wants to get aggressive, just auto-attacking away at Fish1 there. Fish1 did seem to get the better end of the deal, so I'm sure he's totally fine with it. As I was expecting more out of Baiye early on, but I mean, I guess that's just what happens when Yuntal isn't fully stacked up and it's your first item.
Yeah, I think that's the unfortunate part, is just it's, you know, not stacked Junhao, and again, nothing really else to go off of. Jinx is not super far behind with the Kraken, so it just ends up being a trade where as long as the autos are relatively even, Jinx is going to be able to at least, heal up a little bit in that exchange. Overall, again, though, with that 1k gold lead on Baiye, you actually are feeling good. And Saber, once again, is the target.
There we go. And Xiaofang, again, is going to be short, but this time the Impale will land, and they will give the kill over to Fish One as well. It's time for LNG to tear down this turret.
That is the exact kind of play that LNG need to make. Not only is it a catch on the flashless Saber, which you burned earlier, but the kill is going on the perfect target in the Jinx. You need to start prepping for this late game, especially with all these objectives being taken so slow. You need to be understanding that this is likely going to go long, and if that's going to be the case, Jinx is your out in the late game. So excited to see where LNG end up playing the rest of the map. It's, a good play, but it does burn a lot of resources, so we'll see exactly where they might want to move from there. For now, I'm going to be kind of watching and seeing whether Zhang is able to keep that pressure up in side lanes, because he's done a really good job. He'll be able to take this top lane tier 1 in this instance, and whether or not they want to fully commit to this Rift Herald spawning in 30 seconds.
And even with that turret, he's still 500 gold behind Zika, right? Because he's just got a large CS lead. And, I know Zhang's been laning into Haichao a lot, but even then, like, Haichao, able to at least keep it even. You can take a look at the bottom side. The gold is shrunk a little bit between the AD carries. Take a look at the side graphic here. A lot of heavy pockets over on the side of LNG.
Honestly, this gold graph looks oddly similar to game number 1, where it's Baiye at the top of the list, hoping to be able to stabilize for Ultra Prime while LNG gets advantages everywhere else on the map. But it's all really going to come down to this Rift Herald fight. This could be really influential. Aurora teleport.
All right. Haichao getting in there, looking to hit a pretty nice between worlds to get some good damage in. Just going to clear out this ward for now. Ovio has ghosted, so he's ready to get in there and start wreaking havoc. It's stolen away by Fish One, and the Impale is so good, but Fish One is out of position, and he gets caught between two members, and he's going to go down. Zhang trying to save Junhao. A double kill for the Zambessa, who's completely untouched. A triple kill for Zhang. He wants it all. He's got a quadra kill, and Zeka's got to flash out of there.
What a huge fight for Zhang. We talked about this Ambessa being down in gold after taking a tower. Who cares? It's Ambessa on first item. 4 kills, a quadra kill for the top laner for Ultra Prime. And really, a big part of that fight was Junhao. We'll talk about it. Baiye not going to be in trouble here. Not going to be in danger at all of this Crocodile. It's a huge, huge win for Ultra Prime. I'm hoping we get a replay so I can show exactly what I'm talking about. But doesn't really matter if you get engaged upon. If your disengage is as good as this. Fish One being the one to be able to take the Rift Herald is certainly interesting, but look at this ultimate coming in from Junhao here to be able to separate OVO from Fish One. It's a huge play. The ult comes down immediately on top of the Jinx, and from this point onwards, there's no fight. Fish One has been donated every bit of gold for LNG, and without the Jinx, you just don't have enough damage to break through. They are able to pull at least a little bit back, but this Ambessa popping off. Zhang getting the, dash reset after dash reset and eventually picking up the win. Now Dragon going over to Ultra Prime as well. That will be their second of the game. Nice block there from XiaoXia, making sure the Jinx Rocket can't steal it. But we were looking at a pretty risky game state for Ultra Prime just a couple of seconds ago. And now we are looking at a pretty great position for a team that scales very, very well.
Yeah, so much breathing room right now, and I do wonder what LNG is going to do with this Herald. The good news is, even though Fish One was not in a great spot and died in that fight, he did pick up the Rift Herald, so you can use this to make some sort of creative play to try and get your footing back into this game. But the problem with this composition is that it's so hard to have an answer to this Ambessa. You are banking on these Skarner ultimates to hit Baiye, Saber, and Zhang, right? Like, that's what you have to have, and I don't really know if that's going to be possible. He's 0-5 on Ambessa in his career. Thank you, production, for that.
Stat.
Yeah, he might be 1-5 after this one. And if he's not, there's some serious problems.
Yeah, at that point, we're starting to get concerned. I will say this game is far from over. I'm not willing to just call it in favor of Ultra Prime just yet.
Oh, for sure.
While Fish One might have been mispositioned in that fight, really it just takes one other fight where the Jinx is able to pop off for things to go in favor of LNG. We're still very close. Zhang, though, could have gotten in some trouble.
All right, can he get away is the question. Xiaofang is holding on to that Impale and elected not to use it.
Makes a lot of sense here to not use it. You don't want to overcommit to a play onto an Mbessa who can just kind of get out of there for free, especially with so many Ultra Prime members in the area. But, oh, Yanni, are we going to get a classic blue buff fight here in the LPL?
Yes, we are. Everything's classic here in Group Nirvana. Actually, you know what? They backed off. What amazing restraint shown by Ultra Prime here. That's actually quite shocking, if I'm honest. Okay, man.
Yeah, no, honestly, I expected the team to full engage. I never anticipate anything more consistently than, oh, 2 teams are a blue buff. It's the game is on the line right now. That's just how things go down here in Group Nirvana. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. But Fish 1 continuing to farm up in the mid lane. It's really all on him. You know, I don't want to put too much pressure on a player that has not shown that they can carry in the late game just yet. Hopefully you can get more out of the rest of this team, but you're looking at a Renekton and a Skarner and an Alistar all set up to make sure this Jinx is in as good of a spot as possible. If Fish 1, you know, can't perform, it's going to be a bit of a problem. This is a big test for a very young player.
Yeah, and especially with, you know, the way the last fight went up at the Herald, kind of was the catalyst for that in a bad way. You know, the pressure just increases for him. We're going to see Rift Herald get dropped in the mid lane here just for a little bit of damage on that turret. Junhao trying to do what he can to stop it. Not going to be able to do so. We'll just be able to clean it up. Meanwhile, Renekton up on the top side is going to claim this turret. We have Otacon that's spawned on the bottom side here. A lot going around on the map here, Kman.
Let's give Zika his credit for this game so far. I understand the Renekton's in a good spot, but that was a quadra kill onto Zhong, and this gold is even in the top lane matchup. Certainly not what you want to see if you are Ultra Prime. That's where a lot of your power ends up coming in, and that is a big reason why they've not been able to really push this gold lead. But you're right, the Otacon has spawned here, and you know, with 2 items on the Renekton, with hopefully a second item coming in onto the Aurora, you know, pretty shortly here, you should be looking at a position where this could be fightable. We did see quite a bit of a flip at the previous Otacon. We will see if that ends up carrying over into Game 2, but very important for both of these teams to get as much setup as possible. Nice vision right now for LNG. They'll need to push it even more if they want to really take this.
Yeah, a lot of this fusion getting cleared out here as the 2-man squad of Junhao and XiaoXia doing well. And, hey, just saying right now, XiaoXia has not died, Kman, and usually that bodes very well for Ultra Prime. As
perfect opportunity.
Oh, wow, this is perfect. Oh, my God. Production is smurfing. XiaoXia, deathless. 2 out of 5 Ultra Prime game wins. Could be 3 out of 6 after this one. We'll have to see. We do see multiple members congregating here. Double teleports coming in. Zika's on the backline all alone. Saber is immediately forced to flash, and OVO gets in there. Let me hear you say OVO. And Fish 1 is able to go ham. He's untouched. He's rifling away, but Junhao got on top of him.
No way.
Shocking everybody, turning around the fight single-handedly, just like he did last time. Upstairs, it's a triple kill for Baiye. It is Otacon for Ultra Prime.
A fight that looked like it was going to be a nightmare, a disaster for Ultra Prime ends up getting turned around by 2 members. Junhao and Baiye end up playing excellently. It looked doomed when Saber had to blow his flash early on, but once again, it's the mispositioning of Jinx and the lack of protection, quite frankly, coming in from the rest of the team that ends up really costing LNG. And that's not just a team fight loss. That's not even just an Otacon. It's Soul Point going over to Ultra Prime, and this is Infernal Soul. This could be a problem, but we're going to get this replay here. We see the teleport coming in. Zika ends up being on the backline, but Saber's in a much worse spot after the flash coming in from Zika, the knockup from OVO. This looks like a nightmare. Fish 1 trying to play as safe as possible, get the damage down onto Braum, but quite frankly, XiaoXia lives a little bit too long, and it takes a little bit too much time. By this point, it's a little bit of an even fight. Fish 1 walks a little bit too far forward, and Xinjiao can just dive in. The health bars are not there anymore. The knockup was gorgeous from Junhao, and Baiye more than enough damage to clean this up at the end of the fight. It's really well played by Ultra Prime, and that very much puts the game in their hands.
Yeah, and unfortunately what happens is you get on top of Saber. Well, guess what? Saber is actually the weakest member of the team right now. Sure, you find him right away, but, I mean, Junhao, just incredible play in both of these fights. Now, all of a sudden, Xiaofang, all right, he's going to impale one member. They're going to try to blow up Saber again. We saw this just happen. Fish one well protected for right now.
Junhao.
Zika's in front of him. Meanwhile, on the
Zhang.
backside of the fight, they're going to blow up Haichao immediately. Xiaofang's got to get out of dodge. Junhao going to try to follow him. Not going to be able to do so. Is now looking for a big flank onto some prime targets. He wants a piece of Zika here. Knocks away OVO. And they're going to turn the Croc into a pair of boots. It's another Ultra Prime fight win.
Huge from Ultra Prime. Once again, it's Junhao that comes up clutch with his positioning in this exchange. It does look like it could just be a nice catch onto Saber and potentially more. But it's not going to be here. Junhao maybe too far forward. We'll see if he can get punished here. I'd be shocked if they have the damage.
They have to try. They have to try, but oh man, the Winter's Bite just slows up Xiaofang. He cannot get close.
Yeah, it's a bit of a desperation play there for LNG, just hoping that they can take down the Xin Zhao, but what a pick this Xin Zhao has been so far. Junhao has been piloting it so well coming out of the jungle. Once again, just fantastic setups in these fights, and Zhang was able to get onto the Aurora in that exchange as well, and that really made it difficult for LNG. But now, again, you're looking at a spot where Baron spawning in 30 seconds. Even if Dragon is up in 3 minutes, that's Soul for Ultra Prime, and so everything's coming to a head right now, and as much as you'd love to sit here and say that Jinx can start to take over in these fights, we've seen time and time again that either Fish 1 is going to be too far forward or these tanks are going to get bursted down just a tad bit too quick to be able to peel for the Jinx as much as she would want. You need to have a perfect fight if you're LNG, and the setups just got a lot harder.
Yeah, and I mean, Fish 1 is just so far behind. He went second item Phantom Dancer. I mean, to me, this seems like it might have been a Runon's game. Now he's got his third item. He's got all this armor piercing with Lord Doms, but where's the Infinity Edge? Where's the meat coming and slapping them, right, and doing a bunch of damage? I need to see Jinx Rockets doing damage.
It's a little bit scary for LNG, the fact that this Jinx might not actually be able to single-handedly carry the damage in this team fight. Haichao, I think, is also going to be helpful in that regard, even Zika on the top side, but this is definitely a bit of a questionable decision from Fish 1. We'll see how much it ends up paying off. It's clear that he needs to try and burst through that front line as quickly as he possibly can. A lot of that's going to come down to how much time he is allowed in these front-to-backs, though, from the rest of his team. We've seen OBO basically get chunked out immediately in every single fight. We've seen Xiaofang really not be all that useful after the Impales coming in from Skarner, but play potentially on Haichao. He's just going to ult out, though.
Yeah, I mean, he just can't stop this, though, is the problem, right? Junhao just doesn't take any damage. Jinx Rocket lands. It does damage. Not a whole lot, but it does some. I just don't know where LNG finds their angle here, Kman, especially because this Soul is up in 1 minute and 25 seconds. And barring a critical error from Ultra Prime, there is no way they secure this without taking heavy losses. Sure, even if you steal it away, like, you are going to lose the Baron for it and multiple turrets, and this game is just going to be completely out of reach.
Unfortunately, Yanni, I think you said the key phrase in that entire exchange, which was barring a gigantic mistake. And, I feel like I've been such an Ultra Prime hater throughout this series. I'm really not. This team is playing really well in this game. I think they've had a couple of really huge fights, but it's Group Nirvana, and anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
Any setup can, be... any mistake can be forgiven with the right setup and with the right mistake coming in from the other side. So we will have to see if Ultra Prime ends up playing it out cleanly, but certainly they have every tool at their disposal to end up closing this game out. Junhao has been excellent throughout this game. I think he's actively been able to really blow up everything that LNG want to do. I even think that, you can look at Baiye's positioning, and it's just better than Fish 1's right now. So we'll see with Xiaofang going aggressive.
All right, guess what? Fish 1 has been focused out, and he is dead. And they're going to turn on OVO. He'll get under the safety of his turret, but Xiaofang dies on the backside 10 seconds before the Dragon. But guess what? Ultra Prime says, we don't want no stinking Dragon. We want the Baron.
Oh, it's just another gigantic mistake for LNG, and Ultra Prime capitalizing fully here. I understand the willingness to go for a play as Zhang and XiaoXia looking for the 2v3.
Guess what? You're going to win the 2v3 if you're Ultra Prime because Zhang is just so damn strong. They even send Saber down as a little bit of backup. But Zhang, oh, I thought he really wanted the dive there. Haichao looking to turn this around. Listen, if you can kill this guy, it'll be big. I don't think you're going to be able to do so. Zika just can't get close. Baron secured for Ultra Prime. Kman, Xin Zhao is a really strong champion, a champion we see a lot of people picking. This has been one of the most impactful Xin Zhaos I have seen in a long time.
Junhao is controlling everything on the map, and this is what we saw out of Junhao last split when this team was so close to making Group Ascend, when they were a team that a lot of people were seeing as a bit of a dark horse, a potential top 10 team in the LPL, but as we get a replay here, we just kind of get to see the over-aggression from LNG. Keep your eyes on Fish 1 during this entire exchange. Once again, it's Junhao diving on top of the Jinx, and just no peel coming in. It's a beautiful ultimate from Junhao to disengage Zika, and once Jinx is done, once Fish 1 is down, there's nothing left to play for. And, you know, really, I think that is the main negative coming out from LNG, is despite the fact that they drafted for this Jinx and tried to play around this Jinx has not been able to accomplish anything, and Ultra Prime have done even better playing around their own AD carry, who's now 6-0-9 on the Saber. Junhao, as we can see.
Hang on. Might have a little bit of a catch here. XiaoXia forced the flash away.
Oh,
going to come in, and Xiaofang impales a couple of members, but he's just dead. Zika can't even get in there, bro. This is just so cooked right now. It's a triple kill for Baiye. Oh, guess who's on the other end? It's Zhang, just cleaning up. And guess what? Saber will even get his second kill. In the blink of an eye, Kman, that is an ace, and I think that's the game.
Yeah, this should be the game at the very least. You've got 30 to 40 second death timers on LNG, and this is a clinical win from Ultra Prime. It was looking dicey in the mid game, a couple of fights not going their way, but it mattered the most for them to step up in these exchanges, and once again, Junhao being the captain of Ultra Prime and really leading them to victory.
It's always a banger in Group Nirvana, Kman, and guess what? The battle of the bottom will go to Game 3 as both of these teams vie to keep themselves within striking distance of ThunderTalk's tentative hold on 4th place.
Things have gotten very interesting, Yanni, because, again, we talked about this at the beginning of the show, but whoever wins this, as you mentioned, is in a great spot to be a play-in team in the playoffs. It's not guaranteed. We're in double round robin. We're out of that single round robin Group Nirvana stuff, and so you do have some opportunities to move forward from here, but these are, arguably the two weakest teams, and these are the two teams that kind of need to beat each other in order to give themselves a conversation. And Ultra Prime, I think, doing a great job of learning from their mistakes in game number 1 and, really having a much cleaner experience in the back half of game 2.
Yeah, man. Wow. It was really incredible. I mean, a solo, I hesitate to call it a solo carry performance at Junhao because Zhang did a lot there. Baiye, listen, Baiye did his thing. Didn't do anything particularly remarkable, but, popped his ultimate for the team, auto-attacked for the team. But, as awesome as that quarter kill was, that was kicked off by Junhao in his huge engage. And this has been the most slam dunk MVP that I could ever think of. This guy, again, I wasn't saying it just to say it. I have not seen a Junhao this entire year be that impactful in a game. Really single-handedly separating, Ultra Prime peak and LNG peak, right? That is a very, very worthwhile thing to note moving forward. And we're not even out of the series yet.
Yeah, we're not even out of game 3. We're going into a decider, but I think what was most impressive about the performance for me was not just the decision-making and the general, awareness. I think a lot of the positioning in those fights was excellent from Junhao, but really it was the reaction speed. It's the mechanics of Junhao that really ends up, making the big difference there, being able to perfectly time a lot of those ultimates coming in to disengage at the exact right time to make sure Zika or Xiaofang can't separate him from getting on top of that Jinx. Jinx was a liability in this game. Part of that was Fish One's positioning, and we can talk about that, but part of that was just the fact that she was targeted every fight by the Xin Zhao, and there was never any peel. And so you got to give credit to both sides, or I guess both parts of that, and maybe start to look at LNG and say, well, maybe hyper carrying around Fish One isn't the platform moving forward.
Yeah, it just can't be, right? He did have that one really good Jinx game, the last time out where, it wasn't really fantastic, but the last fight positioned really, really well, very good, was able to be impactful. Just wasn't happening this time around. I mean, take a look at the damage charts, and you can just see he did not a whole lot of damage. He did out-damage Saber. Great. If that's the bar, that's bad news, especially for the game that Saber had. He was just along for the ride himself. With Baiye having all of this damage, I do wonder if they're going to give the MVP to him. I really don't think it should, but I'm worried, man. I'm worried.
We'll see. We'll see. I think you properly called out Fish 1's damage numbers. He did 5,000 more than Braum on the other side, which is never a good stat to uphold. But you're right. Like, you know, I think Baiye deserves at least a little bit of credit for the positioning in those fights, because I think you definitely saw him being able to capitalize. There were quite a few AD carries that, despite the setup, might not always be in the position to pump out that kind of damage with the Saber, but of course, very comfortable on the champ. But you're right, though. Like, this really is the Junhao game. If Baiye is going to be considered, you know, a little bit more important here because of the KDA, then, you know, I think that there is something about that. Zhang obviously getting a quadra kill in the early game, but it really is these gigantic plays. And this is OVO's knockback. We almost forgot just how awesome this play was into the Jinx rocket to perfectly time and set this up, you know, because of the way the game ended up breaking down. Definitely worth calling out how cool that play was, but unfortunately not much else to celebrate for LNG after that.
Yeah, not at all. And, you know, I think that's when Saber knew that this game wasn't going to go super well for him. And I thought Fish 1 was Guma Yushi for a second, and then he very quickly became Guma Useless as he immediately got targeted out. And the good news is he was at least able to pick up the Rift Herald, right? But the Rift Herald really didn't do anything. It got a little bit of damage on mid, and that's it. And, you know, this is where you just knew that, yeah, this game might be a little cooked.
And even here, it really felt like this could be salvageable, but you actually called it out really well in the moment, Yanni. This is a lot of pressure put onto a Ryze that was already very weak, and it's XiaoXia that ends up, you know, really taking a lot of the damage here, and that's exactly where you want it. If you're Ultra Prime, you want it to go onto your support, and once Junhao is able to get in here, ends up getting onto Fish 1, knocks back all of his peel with the Crescent Guard with the ultimate. At this point, it is doomed for LNG in this fight. And it's just one of many examples throughout this game of Junhao finding the perfect time to find the priority target in fights. This is another great example of that. You know, just making sure that he's in the exact right spot. This is the reaction speed I was talking about. The flash coming in, perfectly disengaging the slice onto the Renekton. It's just great stuff. And this is the kind of execution you need to see for Ultra Prime.
Yeah, and one thing in that last fight, OVO just wasn't really linked up with Fish 1 there. As you could see, he tried to hop over. He's like, oh, man, like my AD carry's already gotten engaged on. I'm just a little too late. And that was the true nail in the coffin. Yeah, man. Not too much more to say outside of those couple of fights. I'm starting to feel a little bit better about Baiye for an MVP if they give it to him because of that fight in the bottom side where we were like, oh, man, Junhao turned it around. Saber Ricochet did so much work in that fight. Like, they were melting. So I'm like, you know what? If they want to give it to Baiye, I will consider it ethical.
It's approved. It's Yanni approved to give it to Baiye. You heard it here first. Baiye is Yanni's choice for MVP in this game.
Whoa. Hang on. Lies and slander.
Yeah. No, I can't misrepresent you too much. It's only game 2.
Please
We've
don't.
got a full series to go. We've got to keep commentating. I can't get you too mad at me, but you know, I think absolutely. Like, you want to give Baiye the credit he deserves because that positioning was solid, but at the end of the day, the MVP should be going in one direction.
Again, you know, this should have been Junhao. But hey, listen, I said it. This is an ethical MVP vote. It's not the popular one, but it's ethical.
I understand.
That one fight convinced me. That one fight convinced this right here. Just the sheer amount of damage that he was able to dispense in this fight. A really good spell shield too. Like, yeah, sure, you know, it was only for a little bit of damage, but I mean, he got to live every AD carry stream. You get to hit for free. I mean, look, they're zooming in on the ricochets. You can see the health, the little yellow chunks, just chunking and chunking and chunking, dude. As an AD carry player, I'm like, yeah, I feel good about that one.
Yeah, that's the AD carry dream right there, is playing Saber and free hitting on the backline while everyone else takes all the aggro, while your Braum ends up dying. You know, that's the dream. But even in these fights as well, like, again, his positioning was so solid throughout a lot of the game. Even if he wasn't the primary engager, you know, being able to dodge a lot of those big abilities, or perfect spell shield there, of course, as well on the Impale. So, you know, great stuff from Baiye. I think as much as we want to give praise to Junhao, and he does deserve it, like, we should be giving that praise to Junhao. You can't win a game like this by yourself, and I think Baiye more than stepped up to be the primary damage dealer.
You can't win it by yourself, so you got to give it to Baiye. We're going to go ahead and take a short break. When we return, the final game of the first series of the evening, or day, or morning, I don't know, between LNG and Ultra Prime. See you on the other side.